Okay, cousins, welcome to the channel. And I know why you here. You came for story time, so I ain't gonna waste no time. I'm gonna get right into it. I'm gonna try to have one part so you can understand. Now, this is a trigger warning. This is not, this may be triggering for some people. There are some things on here, I don't know, but just be cautious. And another side note, everything that I'm saying is 100% true, is not made up. I'm not exaggerating. This is what happened. Now, a couple of years ago, I got into a car accident. Me and my daughters, my three daughters, this was before my baby was here. We were going to one of my friend's daughter's birthday party. Now we were on our way there. Now I'm driving. We listening to the music, y'all, just vibing, cause that's what we be doing, just vibing. So, y'all, I'm getting to a red light and I go to press the brakes. Y'all, why the brakes not working? So I'm like, okay, if I keep going straight, I am going to go into, oncoming traffic. I'm going to go into oncoming traffic like this. We're going to get hit from right here, and right here. Now, if I go this way, that's where Jane's Seafood was. If I go this way, I'm gonna be going into the building and I could possibly kill innocent people, kids, or whatever. So I'm like, oh my God, so you really gotta think fast. So I'm like, okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hurry up and turn here. That way they have like this, they had like this big old dumpster, like this big old trash can. And I'm like, okay, if I turn here, the trash can will stop us, it'll slow us down, it'll just break us. But y'all, tell me why I go to turn here, I miss the trash can by probably this much and I end up hitting a pole. I hit my head so hard. But I guess my adrenaline was rushing, so I jumped out of the car. My first initial thought is, let me check on my kids. Let me make sure my kids are alive. Let me make sure my kids are okay. I jumped out the car, even though I was like, damn, I hit my head really, really bad. I jump out the car. I check the back seat. I check on my kids. They're crying. They're hysterical. I'm pulling them out the car, but they're really all okay. So I go to hug my daughter, touch my oldest daughter, and she looks at me, y'all, and she just starts screaming. And she's like, "Mama, mama, mama, mama." And I'm like, "What, Autumn? What's wrong?" And it's like she backed away from me. She was so scared of me. And she's like, "Your head, your head." So y'all, I feel my head like this, and I'm like, there's blood like literally gushing. And then by that time, the blood is gushing all into my eye. So I turned back. There was this building with like, the glass doors or whatever. So I look into the glass door and I'm like checking my head, and y'all, all of this was like bust open, like with, the blood dripping and everything like that. So I panic. I start screaming. I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, what's going on? So the people came from across and people are starting to stop to help us, and they called the ambulance, and things like that. Get into the ambulance, and my mom and then one of my in-laws came to get the girls so they can drive them to the hospital so they can get checked, because I had to get into the ambulance because of my head injury. um okay, I get to the hospital, they check me out, they stitch me up. Come to find out, my hand was also broke. Now this is a key part of the story of what happened and what, what's gonna come, what's gonna come to pass. Okay, so uh I think I'm healing. I'm doing fine. Now, mind you, my hand is broke. I had a concussion, but I'm like, okay, it's a concussion. Like, concussions really shouldn't be anything. A few weeks go by. I start to, like, my appetite began to decrease. Like, I began to be, like, really nauseous all the time. Like, I couldn't eat. Like, I couldn't eat. Like, none of my food wanted to stay down. I lost my appetite. Then, okay, I was like, okay, maybe it's just a virus or something. Okay. Then it's like all of a sudden my breathing changed. And then, like walking, I couldn't walk long distances anymore. Then, the worst of the worst, I couldn't even really bathe myself. I couldn't really get up to do like simple things. And then it got to a point where my vision changed. My eyes became incredibly sensitive to light. Okay? I mean, like, I no longer could have went outside in the daytime. First, it was like minor, like I had to put shades on when I went out to go outside. And then it became like so sensitive. I literally had to sleep in the dark. I couldn't watch TV or anything like that. Like simple things. I couldn't get up and bathe myself. Um, I remember going to several specialists from Opelousas to Lafayette to New Iberia to Sunset. I mean, them sending me everywhere. Nobody knew what was going on, y'all. And I remember it getting to a point to where I told my husband, hey, if something happened to me, I need you to take care of my kids. I need you to make sure my kids are taken care of. Y'all, I forgot a key part. Even my speech got slurred. It's almost like I had a stroke, but I didn't. They really didn't know what was going on. I was doing MRIs. I was going to see the neurologist. Like, and it was like, we don't see anything wrong. I mean, going to the emergency rooms several times a week, and they're like, we can't help her. It's a mental breakdown. That's why Black women, I need you to understand, we need to learn how to be the biggest advocates for ourselves. Do you understand? When you know something isn't right, speak up and stand on what you say, because guess what? They will place you in that category real fast if you let them. This is key. This is important. At first, my family was fighting. It was like, man, we something is wrong. This is not like her. But they began to get into a point to where they got tired. It was pretty much like everybody gave up. Like, no friends didn't come visit me. I think one friend came visit me. My friend Bird from New Orleans. She came sit on my sofa in the dark with me. And I remember crying to her, and I'm like, Bird, everybody think I'm crazy. Everybody think I'm going through a mental phase, like I'm losing my mind, but it's really not that, because I have perfect conversation recall. I can recall everything back to you what's going on with my life, everything that everybody is saying. I can call it back to you, but everybody is saying that I'm crazy. I say, but you're having a conversation with me. You're here with me. Do you think I'm crazy? And I remember just crying out to her and explaining this to her. Even my husband stopped sleeping in the bed with me. You know, if we're gonna keep it real raw and uncut, we're gonna call it what it is. He stopped sleeping in the bed with me. Now, mind you, this was not only like a physical attack on my body, but imagine trusting somebody, not even trusting someone, stealing your belongings, okay, to go put witchcraft on you, to have you unalived. So when people be like, Javisha, why you don't really trust people? Why you don't really trust females? That's why. That was the hardest season of my life. I remember writing on a board in my house, writing down important numbers for my daughters, just in case they woke up, something was wrong with me, or in case I fainted, or whatever. I wrote on the board everybody's number. I remember going to sleep with my Bible every night. I slept with my Bible because I asked my husband if he could get me some new Bibles and some study Bibles. I read my word. I stayed in my word. And I remember it getting to the point where I wanted to give up so bad. And I was like, God, I don't know when you're going to heal me, but you got to bring me through this, because I know you're not done with me yet. I don't think y'all understood the type of faith that it took to get through that season of my life. God literally took everything from me. I'm talking about from catering to making thousands and thousands of dollars a month, to where everything had to stop. God took it to where I couldn't even use the phone. He took it to where I couldn't be on social media. He took it to where I couldn't even talk to friends. Nobody was around but me and him. I literally had to sit in a dark room every day by myself, day and night. That's what it was. I'll never forget. It was like Thanksgiving, or no, it was Christmas. And my husband, he never really cooked, but he had to cook the Christmas meal because I couldn't. And I remember They was like, man, why don't you just come in the living room with us? Like, come in the living room with us while we open the gifts. Like, we gonna put blankets and stuff on the windows so the sunlight won't hurt your eyes. So, y'all, I did it by the hardest, okay? I went in there, but I know it may sound stupid. It may not sound believable, but this is real life, okay? I did it by the hardest, and I went in there with them. I watched them open presents, and I looked at my husband. I'm like, oh my God, I can't leave my family. And I told him that night out, and I told him, I said, can you bring me to a hotel? I just want to be alone. I don't want to ruin y'all Christmas, and I don't want y'all to worry about me. He did not want to bring me, y'all. He did not. And I remember saying to myself, I'm only going, and I only want him to bring me because I don't want to die in front of my family. It literally felt like all the life had been sucked out of me. And I remember so many times looking at my kids and saying, what if this is the last time? What if I don't wake up? I remember telling my husband, please don't go to work, because my husband works out of town. Y'all, I literally was fighting this thing on my own. And I told God, you got to heal me. You got to bring me through this. I don't know how, I don't know when, but I'm holding on to my faith. And I remember I was going through this for my birthday. And I told my husband, he was like, what you want for your birthday? I said, I want to go to church. And I remember going to church, and I got to walk in with sunshades on. And I'm like, people just probably looking like, what the hell is going on with her? Understand that things are physical, but things are also spiritual as well. That's why you got to watch who you have around you. Watch who you eat from. Watch who you have in your company. Everybody not for you. And I remember talking to 3 different pastors. And I had one particular pastor come to my house. He came to my house to pray for me, all the way from Texas, Pastor Williams. He came all the way from Texas to pray for me. And when he walked in, he looked like he wanted to weep, y'all. And I was like, you feel that? He was like, yeah, I feel it. Like he felt my spirit. I never felt so alone in my life, y'all. That man came and he prayed for me. And I talked to the other 2 pastors, and they all told me the same thing. To hold on, and that God was going to heal me. And I told him, I said, you sure? And I was like, you sure? You sure he gonna heal me? Oh, but I was like, but I believe what you said. I believe the word of God out of the mouth of a prophet. He ain't gonna lie. But y'all, I remember also calling my mom, and I was like, hey, can you go through the sinner's prayer with me to make sure I'm saved? And I remember I used to call, and I was like, man, mama, you think I'm gonna die? And she was like, Javicia, you're not. I don't think people understand how scary it is when God takes certain things away from you, and all you have is him. When you come back, you look at life in a whole new light, in a whole new perspective. That's why I don't play about my life now. I don't play about my boundaries. I don't play about the people who I have in my house, around my house, in my business, in my conversations, because this is serious. It is. And I remember when I finally got my breakthrough. When I finally got my breakthrough, when I went to a therapist, the neurologist sat down and he told my husband, if you do not put her on this, this medication right now, he's going to put me on medication, because he said I was mental. Y'all, I had some of my family members, they was trying to find a plan to get me locked up in a mental institution, because that's what the doctors was telling them. And I remember the neurologist telling my husband, hey, if you don't put her on this medicine now, you'll never get her back. And I remember sitting down and saying, I'm not taking it, because that's not the case. That's not what it is. Like, that's not what it is. So I remember I got my breakthrough, and the neurologist said she needs to see a therapist. So I'll say, okay, I'll go see the therapist. Let me talk to her. And I remember walking in there and I'm telling the lady all of my symptoms and she's pulling up my records and everything. And she said, hold on. Did you say that you got into a car accident prior to all of this happening? And she pulled it up. She said, you're going through post-concussion syndrome. You have a traumatic brain injury. That's what's going on with you. You're not crazy. You're not mental. None of what they're saying, none of what they're saying is the truth, is the furthest thing from the truth. And at that point, I was waiting to go to an eye doctor because, mind you, I tell you, I was having real, real bad problems with my eyes. So she said, I'm going to refer you to him. But in the meantime, I'm going to write a hot message to them, to the doctors who see you, because how could they not see this? How could they not know this? Now, mind you, okay, side note, post-concussion syndrome is not something that you can see on like a CT scan or through blood work or something. This is something where they have to listen to your symptoms of what you're saying. You really have to pay attention. Crazy part, when I was going to the ER and I was asking them, hey, even my family, does this have something to do with her hitting her head and getting in a car accident a couple of weeks ago and months ago and stuff like this? Because this went on for months. Okay, months, damn near a year. And it was like, no, it has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with that, blase, blase, blase. But come to find out, it did. And when it was time, I finally went to my eye doctor and he looked at my eyes and I was telling him what was going on. I'm like, look, you kind of my last hope, okay? Because everybody's saying I'm crazy, okay, too, except the therapist. So what do you see? Because if you look here, I still have the scar, which is still kind of sensitive. Whatever. So he looked into my eyes, whatever. He was like, it's almost like something had broke from where I hit my head. So basically what happened was, not only was I suffering from post-concussion syndrome, when I hit my head, the trauma from my head, it strained the vessels in my eyes. So that's why my eyes began to be so sensitive to light. And I was having severe headaches. I mean, so severe, y'all. All I could do was cry and hide under the blanket, which was also like putting a strain on my heart. My blood pressure was going up here, down here, up here, down here, heart rate like this. I remember calling the ambulance several times because I thought I was about to croak on my kids in that house. Do you understand? And I remember calling the ambulance and I remember them laughing. It was a Caucasian man and a Caucasian lady, and I believe another Caucasian man, like two of them and a white lady. And I remember them laughing because they said I was having a panic attack. I was having an anxiety attack. And y'all, that's really wasn't what it was. That's why I say all the time, be the biggest advocate for yourself. If you know something not right, if you know that's not what it is, speak up for yourself. And the only really thing that really saved me was that therapist and that eye doctor. Once I got my glasses, and at that point in my life, y'all, just like Job, I lost everything. Then I come to find out the home that I was living in, totally not their fault, had black mold. So that was another thing that was playing on making me sick. I was the only one really sick in the house because at that time I got into a car accident. So I was out of a car for a little while. So I had to stay in the house 24/7. I literally lost everything. So in the process, we had to move out of the house. I ended up going to my grandmother, losing everything, barely seeing my husband. He's working on the road. But thank God I went over there. She was able to help me with my kids, y'all. Help me with my kids. She wouldn't even let me take a bath by myself. I remember my first night there. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to go. I don't know, for some reason I just didn't want to go. I was stuck in my ways. Hold on, y'all. Somebody